Ted Johnson not the only one critical of the Patriots' defensive coaching. Coming out of that game, Chris, your colleague Ben Volen wrote, headline, "It's painfully clear that the Patriots miss Bill Belichick's influence on defense." Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think they miss Belichick's influence on defense. There's, no question about that. He's the greatest defensive coach of all time. So I'd sort of say, like, was that your expectation that you were going to have the greatest defensive coach of all time level defense? I did think the defense would be better than this. But when I look at some of the numbers, last year's team allowed 22.5 points per game. This year's is allowing 21.5. I'm not telling you they're good. They're not. I'm not telling you they're as good as last year's defense. They're definitely not. That's not the case. I look at it, though, and say, are people surprised by this? And to me, the crux of the issue is that they can't pressure the passer, which is one of the reasons they blitz so much. They can't win one-on-one. And a big part of that is not having Barmore most of the year. And I know he played this past Sunday, but he was nowhere near what he was last year. And then the secondary play, it's weird to me. You have Christian Gonzalez, who's one of the most talented cornerbacks in the NFL, but overall, I feel like your secondary play is not as good. Now, I know Kyle Duggar's missed time, and obviously they don't have Peppers there due to his off-field situation. But I would think that having Gonzalez, which Belichick didn't have last year, having him this year, that they would be better when it comes to what they're able to do in the secondary, and they're not.
So, I was expecting a rebuttal. Or a rebuttal to Volen, a rebuttal to those who say that they miss Bill Belichick.
No, they miss him. I mean, I'm fair. How can you say they don't miss him? Of course they miss him.
Well,
yes, they miss him.
Okay,
I'm fair. I mean, those are just facts. They miss him. The guy's the greatest defensive mind in the history of the game. Yes, they miss Bill Belichick, particularly in the red zone. I mean, I think that's where they miss him the most. I mean, LA was 3 of 4 in the red zone last week, and this is where Bill really shined in terms of bend but don't break. This year the Patriots are 17th in red zone defense. They're allowing teams to score a touchdown 57.9% of the time. Last year they were 6th. It was 46.1. That's a big difference. That can be where games are won or lost. They're not nearly as good in the red zone. You look at that Colby Parkinson touchdown. Poor coverage, obviously, by I think it was Ellis who was covering him. It was Ellis or Tavai. But in the red zone, they haven't been as good, and that's where Bill really shined when the field got condensed. And it didn't matter that his athletes weren't as good as the other guys' athletes because they didn't have to cover as much ground, and he knew that.
So I just think they miss some better coaching. Like, it doesn't have to be Bill. I mean, Bill's not the only one. Like, for example, last week, Chris, do you think those second guesses were unfair? I mean, they kept blitzing. Stafford kept torching them, and they kept blitzing.
Yeah, I didn't like the 2nd and 9, but I'm telling you, I didn't like that. And I did. And going into the week, I told you guys last week, I thought, listening to what was coming out of there, that they were kind of feeling themselves too much after that Chicago win. Best practice of the year, offense had the best practice, the 9 sacks. I thought they were feeling themselves a little too much, and they tried to, at least to some degree, just carbon copy the game plan, and obviously it didn't work. But on the other side of it, I will say, there's a guy who left here, and Brian Flores, who is one of the most aggressive coaches in the league when it comes to blitzing. And it has worked for Minnesota, so it can work. The issue with the Patriots is that they have to blitz so much, in my mind, out of necessity because they can't win one-on-one. There's no other way for them to generate pressure.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have no problem with an aggressive defensive scheme. I have a problem with you continuing to do it against an opponent that's onto it. Yes.
I mean, Chris, specifically, the blitz on 2nd and 9 that led to the 69-yard touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp. What'd you think of it?
I did. Well, I mean, I didn't like it. I said that. I mean, I'm not saying. Now, I do think you guys sometimes are like result oriented. In other words, if they had blitzed him there and sacked the quarterback, would you spend a week talking about it? I mean, it's easy to talk about it because it's a 68-yard touchdown. Is every blitz a 68-yard touchdown?
No, but that's the point. Does it work or not? What do you mean we wouldn't?
But Chris, let me just and again. So listen, if you want to say that we react to the results, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But what am I supposed to do?
Right. But here's what I would say: as soon as that play happened, what's the first thing you said?
It's a touchdown.
Okay. Right. So my first reaction to that play, and I think this is most people, was Why are you bringing the house on 2nd and 9
No,
at the
I agree.
31 yard
I don't
line?
disagree. I didn't like the call.
So
But I'm not going to use it to damn the entire coaching staff for the entire year. That's where we differ.
Well, no, it's just another log on the fire. Like, are these guys capable? Are these the right guys? Do they have a clue? Like,
I think they have a clue because they're the same guys that drew up the game plan that beat, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, right? I think they have a clue. Are they the right guys? I don't know. I think they have a clue, though. Will they be the right guys in the end? I don't know.
Okay. Do they have a clue as an expression? More your rebuttal, some of which is in bold.
Yes. I can get to it if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Give me the bolded stuff.
Yeah, sure. So, I think, again, I just mentioned the secondary. So a big part of this is, hey, they're missing Belichick. I think that's where they miss him the most. Bill is a brilliant secondary coach. That was sort of part of his background coming up. And I look at it and think the secondary play hasn't been as good. The interesting thing is they have the same secondary coaches they had last year. They didn't change those coaches. They happen to be Bill's son, Brian Belichick, who's the safeties coach, and Mike Pellegrino, who's the cornerbacks coach, and is a former All-American lacrosse player and professional lacrosse player. And we all know how Bill feels about lacrosse. And he brought Pellegrino in and groomed him, turned him into a pet project, and ultimately a position coach. So maybe the issue is that those guys miss Bill the most of anybody because he's not around to cover for them.
Okay, I have no doubt that there were some bad staffing decisions previously. Currently, I got a problem with the whole staff. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Chris, I think you had mentioned in there, too, that it's probably time to break some of these ties to some of the guys that are holdovers. To me, they should absolutely bring in people that that Freudian slip, Mayo wants, or Covington wants. Those guys should be empowered to build their own staffs.
But again, the thing about sending a blitz, a game plan decision, like we're going to blitz this guy, I don't think that's typically not the safeties coach or a secondary coach. That's the coordinator. That's the guys that drop the positional game. Unless they're different here, you tell me.
No, you're right. Except for when you do that, you're sort of, and again, I did not like the call because you're asking a lot of the guy who's covering Cooper Kupp, which was Jonathan Jones. But when you do that, you are relying on your defensive backs. And it's one thing, again, you look at that play, yes, don't love the call, definitely was going to be a completion, but does it have to turn into a 68, 69-yard touchdown?
So it's not just that play. And again, a lot of my analysis is total hindsight. Like, I admit it, but that's what that's what we're supposed to do, I think. Look at the result, and did their plan work?
It's basic, but sure, it works for you.
It is, but how am I supposed to do it? They have a game plan, it doesn't work, and say it was still a good game plan?
No. I'm just saying, you could. I like context and nuance, but I know that doesn't do well in this format. So, and it's not just you guys; it's the format overall.
Sports.
Sports talk radio, the WWE of sports journalism.
Something works or doesn't work. There's the scoreboard. And then you talk about what worked or didn't work on Monday. Like that format you disagree with?
No, I understand what he's saying, though. Like, I think you're taking it too personally. I think that his point is generally right, that in the world, people talk about things that happen and then ask why. That's what our business is, Chris.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So, but that doesn't mean that blitzing all out on 2nd and 9 at your own, or at the other team's 31-yard line, when you've got you basically already got a leg up on them if you're 2nd and 9, right? So what do you got to blitz for? You didn't have to blitz there. It was kind of a foolish mistake.
I agree. I think it was a foolish mistake. They shouldn't have done it. It was a bad call. The only thing I'll say, just trying to think about it, if I were to defend it, would be the one thing we've talked about with them is they don't generate any turnovers. And maybe Covington thought, okay, we need a turnover here. We need a short field. Maybe if we bring the house, we get a batted ball or we get a strip sack or something. But Matthew Stafford's too veteran a quarter. You have to know who you're playing. And it wasn't Caleb Williams. And so I agree with you guys on the call overall. I'm just saying that I think that I wouldn't extrapolate said call and then say, it's a bumbling crew over there that doesn't know what they're doing.
Well, but to Mike's point, it's also been, where did you say they ranked in defense this year?
They're 20th against the pass and 20th against the rush.
Okay, and they've been horrible in the red zone, right? Or bad in the red zone?
Yes, they've been bad in the red. They're 17th, which is below average in the NFL.
Remember that, but one of the arguments that was made for them at the beginning of the year, Chris, was that the defense will keep them in games. And I know they've had some injuries, but does that excuse the fact that they've allowed, 4.7 yards per rush and got run over for a long period of time?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, to answer your question, but I don't put that all. I mean, again, you guys keep putting that on the coaching, and I'm looking at last year's team with Lawrence Guy and a healthy Christian Barmore and Jawan Bentley, and you had some of the same coaches in Covington and Mayo on the staff. So you're giving all the credit for that run stopping to Steve and Bill Belichick? I mean, did Steve and Bill Belichick stop the run with Jeremiah Farms and Jaquelin Roy and some of these other guys and Christian Ellis? Maybe they would have. I don't know. But that's not what happened last year. That's not who they were stopping the run with.
Okay.
The run stopping thing to me is more talent. This 2nd and 9 thing is a coaching point. No question about it. It was a bad call. I wouldn't have done it. I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that maybe if you get a little better secondary coaching, it doesn't end up, you give up a 25-yard gain to Cooper Kupp, not a 69-yard touchdown. Again, I will say when the play happened, because I could see it being there and see the whole field, I was like, touchdown. But I don't feel like a blitz in that situation should automatically be, touchdown. There is like a chance there that the guy could tackle him after like a 25-yard gain instead of it being a 69-yard touchdown.
It's funny because that's what I did too. I went,
Yeah, I was like, that's a touchdown.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.